2016. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting from May 12th. Has everyone had a chance to review those, and is there a motion to approve, or are there any changes or corrections?
A motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'm not on here. Hello? Testing 1, 2, 3.
We can hear you.
Hi, Gail.
I second that
How are
motion
you?
to approve the minutes.
Fine,
Okay,
thanks.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now I'd like to open up the meeting for public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come up and speak? No? All right, seeing none, we will move on to old business. The status of the historic plaque. Okay, well, our historic plaque is still underway. They have the dates. I did provide those to them, probably just only, a week ago, I think. But once those are finished, I know you sent me an email, but...
Yeah, he received the dates and is working on them. I think that's all he needs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're moving along.
I
Spoke
think...
with him, he
Okay.
said by the 1st we'll have the actual items. So
Okay, wonderful.
I tried to beg a photograph. He said it's not photograph worth yet, so
Okay.
didn't want to alarm us.
Okay. Well, that item actually ties into B, because I think I redid the letter to the owners with a little bit of a different theme, in thinking about the plaque and thinking about another way to get property owners enthusiastic about the designation program. I'm proposing that, we use that plaque as first and foremost with the letter. And I'm thinking this would go out now. We're putting it off again, but to fall. Maybe early fall, September, October time period. But that should give us enough time as well, because we do still need to refine which properties we're going to be sending this letter to. I guess you all are getting this letter today, so if you want to take your time and read through it, and the next time we meet, just let me know if you have any changes. But basically, I'm announcing our historic plaque program, and we'll have our plaque by then. I should have a really great draft of the RAC card by our next meeting, too, because we will have received the historic plaque, so I can take a photo of it, put it on the RAC card, and that would also get inserted with the letter, which would provide more detail about the program. So we don't need to go into too much detail in the letter itself, but just mention, designation and some of the benefits, and then they'll have the RAC card to look at as well. So are there any questions on that proposal or comments?
I'm thrilled. That was always my intention.
Well, good.
I do have a question. Are we still working on a brochure?
The trifold that you did?
Right.
Yes, that would be still very good to have at the planning department level. So we need to revisit the brochure.
I thought I'd mention it.
No, please. I think that's great. And that's something that the planning department could easily copy too, right, on their copier and fold and have available. I think that's perfect.
I still need input from everyone to make sure.
That's what I was thinking. So if we could get that copy to all the board members again, that could be our homework, this letter. Because I'm thinking we might not meet next month. I was going to bring that up later, but that could be our homework over summer, is work on the brochure.
Tammy, do you still have that copy?
I do.
Okay.
I'll send it out to everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then, George, I know we left off with the database that we were all going to kind of segment that and try to clean that list up so that we're not sending a letter to folks whose house has been demolished, or where are we as far as that goes? Is that something we just need to
Well, the final database was presented by the city's, I guess it's GIS department. And there's some 600 names on that list, I believe, 647, whatever it is. So if we were to divide it out, that came up to that 100 or 130 or whatever I had been talking about all along.
Okay.
There are obviously entries on that list, and I don't know whether it's best to leave them on there till we go do the survey, or the person perhaps that might be charged with doing that particular area would just simply eliminate them insofar as any visit. Some of the things on the list was the old power plant, which we know what's going on there, so I just questioned some of the properties on there, whether we need to spend time, but perhaps to make it complete, perhaps we should.
Yeah, my feeling is I don't want a homeowner contacting a council member being irate and saying, well, why am I getting this letter? This house, was demolished last year or 2 years ago. And actually, you kind of jogged my memory. I think we were going to put that on the planning department to divvy up the properties just because of the sunshine law. I don't know if you'd be able to do that for us, Gail, is take that final list of 600 and just divide it equally amongst the board members and send us each that appropriate page that we could work on. If that's agreeable to everyone. I remember from a previous meeting it was, so.
A question for you on that. I was thinking this program that you had advanced previously on the tablets for doing the survey, whether we were going to take those and utilize those before we started going out, or whether we're going to be basically investigating or reviewing the property, if you will, and creating a form or whatever, similar to what I'm looking at here, and taking pictures with our cameras or our cell phones. So that's my question there. Would we be would we obtain those tablets first? Have we obtained them, or will we be obtaining them? And where will they fall into this idea that each of us are going to take several hundred names? And
Right, that's a good question. So the grant review, we put our application in, but we don't know if we've received the grant yet. And we will know around July 15th. I'm going to be going up to Tallahassee that second week in July for the review. And then if we do receive the grant, it won't actually start till a year later. So we won't even have that survey program in place until 2017/18 and have the tablets then too. So we won't be able to do survey ahead of time. Another predicament is we ourselves won't be able to go out and survey because of the fact that here's how I understand it, that we're a quasi-judicial body too. So an in-depth survey, I don't think we can do.
But as a group you're referring to?
As individuals.
Even as individuals?
If we did it as a group, it would have to be noticed as well.
But you can't go out as individuals, correct?
We'd have to ask the assistant city attorney, because I'm trying to remember, I don't have the exact wording she said.
If there is a piece of property that may be coming to the commission, it would be a quasi-judicial hearing, and technically you cannot go out to that property, talk to anybody on the property and ask any questions. So it's kind of a thin line there.
Right.
And it's hard for you to know if it is a piece of property that's going to come before the board for discussion.
So that's the issue you have there?
Yes.
So how do you do a survey?
So that's where we would have a volunteer team. A team of volunteer citizens that would basically be going out and doing the survey for us. So they would be provided training.
Separate from the board?
Separate from the board.
Okay.
Yes.
So then if that's the direction that you might be thinking about heading, and if the tablet program is far off, then I would think it would be incumbent upon this board to create the format for that committee when they go out, and not only create the written format that they might take and create their survey from, but also what they should be doing and with what equipment they should be doing it with, any photos and whatnot. Otherwise, we're going to get 15,000 different types of photographs in here, some with maybe 10, megabyte format. Some might, taken with a larger camera, might be much, much larger. So I would think that's going to be something we're going to have to address.
And that'll be part of the training. Right now, there is a standard, so we're very fortunate, and that's set by the Florida Master Site File, the State of Florida Bureau of Historic Preservation. And using the tablets, that will also be a form already, because we'll be using the software that's been developed by the National Park Service.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me. So there will be a format. I agree with you that I could put all of that training previous to the grant and bring it before the board and have you review it. I have no problem with that. The state also has a standard for digital photographs as well. So we can pull from this information and just pull it together into one document that would be training for the volunteers.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yes, we don't have to reinvent anything, which is wonderful.
Wonderful.
So what I would suggest is that I think our major concern is sending a letter to folks where the building's just been completely demolished. So if it's okay with everyone, if we could have Gail, divvy that up. And then first, I think, Tammy, if you would just run that by Peggy and make sure that's okay. We're keeping it very basic. We're going to just look at these properties and see if they're still existing or if they've been demolished. That way, we're over that hurdle.
It would seem like you could avoid all the aggravation to them and the time to us particularly if we were doing a generic letter, a mass mailing, if you will, just in stating simply, whether if the building is still in existence and, may have historic merit, contact us if you're interested. Why?
We could do that too.
And that way would not be offensive, it wouldn't be alarming, it wouldn't reflect any kind of inability to properly process information on our part. It wouldn't be saying anything but, if you do, you do. If you don't, disregard this notice, as the old saying goes. I don't know.
I honestly am thinking back on my days when I worked as a historic planner. Gail, do you have any comments on that? You see a lot of things from citizens when you all send out notices to the public. This is a different situation, but.
We don't get a lot of comments
Feedback.
from people, but I do think that your suggestion to do a generic letter would probably save a lot of time for everybody, and that way you would have the letter ready to go.
It's pretty quick.
With minimal work.
Okay.
Just because of everybody's time being constrained.
Yes, and then we avoid the sunshine law matter as well. All right, good suggestion. All right, moving on. Any more comments or questions regarding that item? Okay.
So I guess,
Go ahead.
as far as the survey then, I guess eventually we'll be using volunteers, it sounds like, to eventually do the rest of the surveys for the city so that we know what properties are still in existence for.
Yes, they'll be re-surveying. We'll start that
So either way, we're
program.
going to, right?
So they'll be re-surveying the properties that were previously surveyed in 1990, and they'll be surveying for the first time those built between 1940 and 1967 by that point. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, moving on. So to the City Hall marker dedication. Thank you, George, for braving the water and coming out. Luckily, not that many people did show up. It was obvious, how bad the water issue was, the rain was. But we are excited because the new date will be next Wednesday. We're going to try for the morning where it's maybe less likely to rain. So let's pray for no tropical storms like the past couple of days. I hope that all of you can be there. You are the ambassadors of this Wednesday, June 15th at 10 a.m. You/we are the ambassadors of our, and stewards of our city's historic resources. And it's really helpful to have you all there and talking to the public and being there to answer questions about our program.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
raining or not, I will not be there.
Okay, I'm so
going to
sorry.
be out of the country.
Okay, well, enjoy, I hope.
Yeah.
Enjoy, but we're going to miss you. We'll miss you. We're going to have the same program plan for the original date. We are going to we're going to have refreshments as well, and we are going to still try to do a photo op for This Place Matters. I will mention today, if you all have time, I know Jeffrey, you're going to leave about 10:30, so I'm going to watch the clock. 10:30, is that right? You need to leave by? If you all would entertain me and we could do a photo together outside with the This Place Matters sign, I'd like to have that posted on the city's Facebook page, talking about the marker dedication, if you all are open to that today. I'd like to do that. And then are there any comments or questions about next week?
If you could just give us a brief itinerary of what you're going to say about the building so that if people ask us questions, then we also have the background.
Perfect. I will do that because I have that document and I can send that to Tammy
Thank you.
soon. Okay, if there's nothing further under old business, we can move on to new business. Okay. It's come to my attention in driving past Route 60 that the Gifford home, the Henry Gifford home, is up for sale. I'm sure all of you have seen it as well. So I received some information from the Pam Cooper at the library at the Archives Center, and wanted to share some background on the house. When I looked up the listing, I was disappointed to find out that the listing says the buildings on the property have no value.
Building on the property.
The buildings, because there's actually another building.
In the back.
And this building dates, property appraiser says, well, Gail passed out the Florida master site file, but it said circa 1900. Could be a few years before, could be a few years after. I'm just going to see if the Florida master site file had that proposed
It says
date on it.
construction date 1887.
It does, okay, good, that's what I was looking for.
Right there.
So, obviously, I don't want to say it is the most historically significant building in the city, but it is certainly on the top. I would like to share this information with the realtor, so at least they have it available to them. And that's it. I just really wanted to bring it to your attention.
I'm relieved. I almost did that impulsively myself, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be allowable. So absolutely, we
Okay.
should do that. I suspect that unless we're really fortunate with the future buyers coming to the site, and that's a big tract, so that's a tiny footprint of a house on a big tract of property, I think, the parcel.
I believe it was
relatively.
0.35 acres, so it's just that one
So it's just that narrow
parcel.
strip? But the one immediately adjacent is
It's
available,
different.
isn't it?
I've seen signs every now and then, but I don't know if that one's available. It's not part of this listing, so.
As my daughter says, Mom, your optimism's killing me. I would love, I would love to think that somebody would get it and would do right by that. If they do not, was that house not in fact moved there? Did you not tell me that? It was.
I've not researched it in detail, but my understanding anecdotally is that it was located across the street, towards where the Vero Beach magazine property was. I don't know if it was in the 80s. I don't know, George, if you happen to know, but I did understand that it was moved across the street. It is still on the original Gifford estate, though. Let me see if
This is not the one on 60 you're talking about.
It's on
is it?
Route 60.
Right on
Before the
corner?
florist.
Yes, across from Vero Beach magazine.
It still looks exactly like this.
So it is still on property that was owned by the family, is my understanding.
What's the asking price?
It's around 115, between 115 and 135. So it's, being sold for the property. It's pretty clear in the listing, so. Now, if a nonprofit or obviously a local government were to purchase it, there's a chance it still may be eligible for grants even though it's been moved. We would have to see the move date. We would have to, or there could be a case potentially made for it. Unfortunately, that grant, the deadline is July 9th, I think, of this year. That's a special category grant with the state of Florida. There's some acquisition monies there.
Can we note that also in the information that you send to the Realtor as extra impetus?
Some resources, yes.
Okay.
Does the county historian know of this?
Yes,
She's aware of it?
yes.
What's her thoughts?
Weren't there, didn't we have just a flock of veterans living in there for a while?
Yes.
Just kind of toying with the idea of turning it into some kind of vet's home, it would seem like.
Yes.
That would be good use, and we'd be entitled to everything. I mean, there'd be multiple grant monies, I would think, for
Yes.
a project like that.
I think I'd ask Gail, and she can speak to this too. And my understanding is the property is owned POI, correct, Gail?
That's correct.
So I asked Gail if she would be prepared to just describe to us what is the potential for that property. If a property owner wanted to purchase it, they wanted to keep the house, what rigmarole or not would they have to go through?
It would
to do
be
that?
your standard site plan for a POI, like you see the houses along State Road 60 that have been converted to professional uses, go through, it would be a major site plan, neighborhood meeting, the house would go through, the review, all the different departments, the county, and go before the Planning and Zoning Board, but it's not uncommon for homes to be converted to the uses that are allowed in the POI zone.
But it could not be used for residential, is that correct?
Well,
Or-
single-family residence is the permitted use
Okay.
in the POI zoning district.
And what about if they wanted to do single family with the main house, but they wanted to rent out or have an office on the back house? Because you don't have multiple uses for the two buildings.
Well, that
I
I'm
thought
not sure.
POI was flexible, but
Well,
perhaps.
POI, you have the single family.
Okay.
And then you can have an office with, if it's an existing building, it doesn't need to meet the minimum square footage that is required for a new building.
Okay.
But I can tell you that if someone were to purchase the property, they could come in and put a 7,000 square foot building.
Okay.
Just about ballpark, so I think, you're looking at somebody being more inclined to do something like that than have a single-family use on it.
If the parcel is indeed that small, parking would then present an issue because you're only going to allow so large an enterprise that can't provide.
Well, it wouldn't be
It's POI.
I don't think it would really be an issue.
Yeah.
Because we have POI uses, the minimum dimensions of a lot would be 100 by 100, and they've got that. So, according to...
Okay, thank you.
According to the property appraiser's page, but I don't think it would be an issue with parking.
Okay. All right.
If I understand You can't win. If I understand correctly, though, if the house itself, whether it's POI or a residential area, someone could still purchase the house and live in the
Right.
house. That hasn't changed, so.
No, you are allowed to have single family in the PO.
Right, and there's not any, even in the so-called commercial district along the railroad tracks, we've got homes. If someone sells that home and someone purchases the home if they want to and lives in that house, it's still a home.
Right.
Because you still have to come
It's the
before the P&Z to convert it to
Right.
not the POI or whether it's
Right.
industrial use anyway. So either way, if a home is standing and someone wants to buy that home, no matter where it is, they can live in that home.
If the use prior was a single family, yes.
That goes with it.
If someone comes to inquire about the property, they're looking to purchase it, and they're going to meet with planning and zoning, will you all be able to provide some historical information for them, let them know this home has significance?
I'm sure we could.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important. That's an important role that the planning department should be taking on. Obviously, informing them it is not designated, but I think that would be wise and good stewardship, so.
To at least reiterate, even if they have received the information from the Realtor.
Oh, yeah,
Saying yes.
or not, just letting them know, this is a late 1800s building. We have a historic preservation program. We also have tax incentives for rehabilitation if you'd like to go that route. Maybe even point them to the county historian as well as a resource. Sure.
Anna, if you would also, I realize I'm saddling you with lots of add-ons here for this information.
It's okay.
But make sure they're aware of the fact, I spoke with as an example, I spoke with a builder that was working in Coral Gables on a historic property. Had no idea, even with their program being so strong there, that home that he was working on would have been entitled to their incentives if they had just enlarged the footprint according to the original character of the home. And they were like, really? I had no idea. So I think that's an important educational point for the public, that they can still participate if they elect to, that they should consider the option of retaining the historic building on the property. That's not going to prevent them from making it as large as Gail said, whatever the allowed square footage is, that they are certainly able to add on whatever square footage they require, as long as it is respectful of the original integrity of the design.
Right, they're not
So,
limited to just the two buildings, and there could be an
correct,
addition
correct.
Is
as
the house
well.
listed now?
The house is not listed, no.
Why?
Pardon?
Why?
Because
I mean, it's a pretty substantial.
it could be that the owner isn't aware. It could be, I can't guess, actually. I can't answer your question exactly. Could be that the owner is not aware of the local historic designation program. Maybe they're not aware of it.
It doesn't look like a priority.
We cannot, as a city, we are not proactive about designating historic buildings
Why?
right now. And we have an ordinance that we all have to work in that requires an owner's written permission. Why? I would suggest limited resources in our planning department. That would be my fair guess, just limited resources.
There she is.
I don't have a good answer for you.
But if it's not, someone could come and buy this property, tear the house down. There goes another Vero
Right.
Beach landmark.
Yeah.
Other cities have ways of not allowing this to happen.
Exactly.
Or slowing it down.
I think that this city should seriously consider doing something.
We can photograph.
The mitigation, right, is if someone proposes to demolish the building, that we could document it. Also, there could be a conversation about a possible move to save the building, right? They may want to donate it. So
Yes.
it could become a bigger, issue. Obviously, we have two historical organizations in town too that,
You say its value is $130,000? Is that what you had said?
I didn't say it's a value. Yeah, that is what it was listed. I believe it's between 115 and 130. That's what's being listed.
And you tell me, as historically significant as this is, that our societies around town cannot come up with the funds or a grant to purchase this?
I mean, you could probably offer them 100.
Nothing's been initiated. This is just now hopefully getting some attention, or will, so.
Is this going to be published in Vero Beach Magazine or 329?
Well, that is from Vero Beach Magazine, those
This one here.
articles.
Yeah, Vero
Yes.
Beach Magazine, March 2014. So maybe they need to rerun it.
I think we start with providing some information to the realtor.
It's a good idea.
Start there.
Okay.
Anything else you suggest? I mean, what would we, I'm just trying to think of what we would provide to, we can make the local papers, aware of the significance of the property.
What's 130 divided by 5?
I know, that's what I was thinking.
I think it's a good suggestion from Deborah, too, the idea
Good one,
that
George.
the house itself could be restored if it needs to be, and then if you wanted to use it as an office or what have you, adding on to the back, or, in keeping with, a lot of people don't realize that, you can still keep the original building and add on in keeping with
The character.
right, so if that's, I think if more people
I think George
understood
hit
that,
it,
too.
it's our headquarters.
Yeah.
I mean, I think because
We could get it
too,
for 100 probably. I mean,
because
for
our
100.
hands are tied a little bit too, I wonder if we could reach out to our planning staff as well. How often would that be feasible too, for you all to be speaking with the realtor, or?
I don't know if that would be appropriate. I can check with Tim.
Maybe ask him what the options could be as far as the commission. I know I'll start with providing the realtor with some information, but we may need you all to reach out to the Indian River County Historical Society too.
All right, we'll talk to Tim about that.
Okay.
Should you copy it to the owner? Whatever you send to the realtor, copy it to the owner?
I don't know if that might be considered what we're trying to avoid as far as,
Well, I would hope that the realtor would communication with.
yeah.
Can we get
I'm not
one
sure.
of these made and put it in the front yard?
You never know. Well, ultimately, it may come to that.
Are we allowed, see, that's the question that's come up before, are we allowed to approach the homeowner or the property owner? Tammy, that goes back to if they choose to designate it, then, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that
I
question.
mean, basically, just so you all know, I did request if we could even have a site visit out there, and, we have to walk a fine line. Right now, there is no plan for that building to come before our commission, but we do have to walk a fine line. So I think right now, just
However-
starting with providing some information to the realtor, that's a start.
Do you think that they would allow us to get a This Place Matters? Do you think the realtor would let us put a sign in the yard?
That might be
Draw
a
some
sales
attention.
incentive. That actually might be a really good
Someone
idea.
may buy it just for the historical value of it.
Yeah,
Somebody who's
I
a
would- yeah.
philanthropist or something.
Good, I think that's a good idea.
I will add that. I have that on the list for the realtor, and I can send an update to Tammy of what, of anything that transpired, to send to you all, so you will have it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to, I'm thinking likely rely on some of our nonprofit groups too, so.
I'd like to interject here, and I thought also that no matter what the zoning is, and back to the home that's already there, no matter what the zoning is, if someone decides to live there, as a proponent for maintaining some of the older neighborhoods and encouraging people to live with, and the idea of mixed use, which is some of the projects we're working on. So that's partly why I keep bringing it up, because if we can encourage more people, well, just because the zoning says this doesn't mean you can't live there.
Right. Tammy, too, hold on, we can't discuss in between each other, so. Let me make a proposal, too, and I've thought about this, but I'm not sure exactly what we can say, but what if we have a letter from our commission to city council, at least making them aware of the historic significance of this building? So when they're out there too in the public, they can share some of this information and be aware that, our commission feels very strongly about this building needing to be preserved.
It can't hurt.
Would you support that step?
Sure, I would support anything. What we were talking about would be that if there was some way to get the building, that, we had some ADA concerns of, access to the building, especially if it was open to the public.
Okay, so if the city were to acquire the building?
Yes.
Okay.
That would
Well,
be something, if it was something open to the general public, of course, we would have to provide ADA accessibility to the building, say a ramp, which, that could be built in the back.
Easily.
Oh, yeah. The design, yes, and in my mind too, that's not an issue.
Well, that's a requirement.
Well, some of the ADA has,
Complying is not, and keeping the historic integrity of the building could be done, as you know, I think.
and some of it too, ADA keeps in mind the historic structure of the building, so they've been a little
there's a
more,
whole
they've been
section.
easy, right, they've been easier to work with as far as that is.
This is a good test case.
It's excellent.
I see and have always questioned how you can have somebody not do something or not alter or whatever their property if it's historically significant. And I know it's a very fine line that the board has to walk as to exactly, and the county, or not the county, but the planning, as to what is permissible. And, we're charged with trying to preserve the historic structures and whatnot in our area. And here's a wonderful test. It's not a house in McCanish Park, or it's not a house in Old Town, or it's not a house in Osceola District. Very historic house. Here's the test for this board to come up with some way to resolve this thing.
Right.
National, is it?
This is our test right here.
Would it qualify for a national designation?
In national, I think it would too. Again, the move affects its significance, but I honestly think we can work with the State Historic Preservation Office on that. And that can be simply done probably with help from the county historian again, because my hands are tied somewhat, with a preliminary site questionnaire. But we walk a fine line too with the owner, with the realtor and the owner, and that's why I suggest we reach out to them first, not assume they know and they're just selling it for the property, but showing them the value, letting them know about the historic value. I do think sharing the information with the city council would be an important step as well. The idea crossed my mind, the passion that I have too, it infuriates me. I'm infuriated that we could lose this building. And I would want nothing more than, there's a grant cycle coming up where the city could apply to acquire this building, but that's not, I'm not saying no, it's not possible, but I'm saying it's not right now the mindset of our city. I think they're getting rid of property, not acquiring property, and so
Well, that's understandable.
we could include it in our
for properties of
letter.
that nature, but I mean, this is something completely different than just regular development.
We can include
Would
in
it
our-
be proper to involve the county in this? That's as much as their history as it is the City of Vero Beach.
I agree. I think we do that through the Name River County, through the county historian.
But I think you're.
Start through the county
Start with the
historian.
state. That would be, and the realtor.
Yes.
I think it's incumbent upon this board to look into every nook and cranny and uncover any way possible of salvaging this property, and doing so in the sunshine and being legal and all proper and nice. But I think here, as I said before, and I'll repeat for the last time, this is this board's test.
Well, I mean, even fundraisers and even taking, public monies maybe it would go a long way to
It's doable.
find a place to have some function, maybe invite the what is it, the Johns Island Foundation, maybe get them involved.
Yes, it's very doable.
It comes to mind, and we used to have something like this where the city had like a public relations
Yes.
person, and we could go through that office, and that would be our contact. And that's part of what's hindering us as far as getting more done. So if we could find a way to do more public relations, whether, I don't know if it would be through Tammy, through the Planning and Zoning Department, but whatever way we can get, more out, and I don't know, we might even have to figure out some sort of spokesperson that can talk on our behalf, that can say what needs to be said that isn't coming from us, but is from what we're working on.
So you're saying that we're unable to do that?
It doesn't sound like it with the Sunshine Law and with the fact that it sounds, the more that we become, I'm not sure what term to use, the more that our board has become more grounded in what the state requires, what the national requires, different things going on with historic preservation. In lots of ways, it is true, our hands are tied. We are to serve a purpose, and that is enabling others to preserve their properties. But as far as trying to seek it out, our hands seem to be tied. So that's where we almost need a spokesperson.
So, and I remember that spokesperson was Mary Beth McDonald. She did a great
Right.
job. I would be happy to prepare things to be published. I guess that would be in keeping with our regulations, but you couldn't actually make public announcements. Or,
Would that have to come before us first?
Yeah, a lot has changed since this board got your designation.
Right.
It's not your typical commission anymore.
Right.
You have so much quasi-judicial things and sunshine law that you have to be aware of. But yeah, I'd be happy to get the publications to the newspapers or whatnot if somebody would prepare them for me. I just don't have the time to devote
how
just
do-
one person doing that.
Now, how do we do that? Do we need to approve what's going to be written, or just?
It would be me sending it to the commission. You let me know your comments. I mean, we'd have to discuss it at a public meeting, bring it back, and get the okay from everyone.
Is Florida unique in the fact that the Sunshine Law applies to a group of historic preservationists?
We have one of the strictest sunshine laws there is in the state of Florida.
Yeah, we are.
Right, but so...
And how
I mean,
other
the Sunshine Law is
organizations
to-
operate, I'm not sure.
Right, the Sunshine Law is to prevent corruption, but how much corruption could you have with a Historic Preservation Commission? I mean, there's got to be a limit to where, because this Sunshine Law is tying our hands behind our back, and our feet too, and our mouths. And so we can't really do anything hardly with this law. I mean, why isn't there someone, lobbying the legislature in Tallahassee to exempt a Historic Preservation Commission from the Sunshine Law?
I think part of that is because it deals with property values and property rights. That's one of the strictest applications there are. So that's probably why
Okay,
it'd be stronger as far as time.
I want to make a comment too. Typically, other communities have someone on planning staff that would be talking to the homeowner and sharing this information. So we may need to ask Tim, Gail. In fact, let's, if we can as a board, ask Tim to either have you or him serve as that historic planner. I mean, that is what the planning department should be doing, in my experience. Where we draw the line is the building's not designated, but that is still where a planning staff member in other communities would approach the owner, would approach the realtor, let them know about the historic significance. Typically would even possibly be talking, answering questions to the media too, if the media were to contact them and ask them about it.
Well, if someone inquires about a property, we tell them, we inform them about the process.
But why can't we be proactive and let them know this is on the Florida Master Site File? At least let the realtor know, because what if they don't have What if they don't know? What if this realtor just doesn't?
I'm confident.
There's a good chance that they don't.
Yeah, I would
I
be
mean,
willing to bet.
It's a great chance, just like the house
Right.
we lost on Route 60.
I mean, that
Venus
right
Arena.
there, then now we're losing the battle because
people
we're
didn't
not
know.
And a
sharing
little
that
farmhouse.
information.
Yeah.
The other flip side of that too, though, is sometimes, and depends upon the realtor and what their ambition is, but if they think that there's some type of value in that, they might turn around and jack the price up
Wow.
too.
But,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
well, it's not even so much the realtor, we're talking about the realtor now because we feel comfortable doing that,
contact,
right?
yeah.
But essentially, we're trying to reach the homeowner.
Right, exactly.
The property owner, so that's essentially what we need to figure out, is how to more directly contact, like you said, on a proactive.
So if we can start there, and I'll report back to the commission, and I have the bullet items that you all asked me to provide to the realtor. And Deborah Atwill, if you wouldn't mind drafting some kind of press release, you mentioned you wouldn't mind doing that, but also, would you like to draft some kind of letter to City Council? Really just informative. There's nothing, just right now, information.
And you'll do the realtor one.
Yes, I'll handle that for now.
And you will email that through Tammy?
Through Tammy, yes. Yes, my results in that conversation. And then, Gail, if I need additional support, I will reach out to you and Tim and say, would you please, whatever. Because I do see that as planning department's role. And that's why usually we as a commission can be up here and we are here to vote in a quasi-judicial manner because we have someone on our behalf, speaking on our behalf. Okay.
You ready to do the photograph?
May I?
Yes.
If we aren't going to meet next month, I think it's
Well, I was just going to
important for these
suggest
things to
that we
go
do
quickly.
meet next
Okay,
month.
let's.
If
I'm
everyone's
here.
in agreement.
I never get vacation.
I will not be here because
I'm no fun either.
I will not be here because I will be in Tallahassee.
I have a bucket list.
Oh, do you want to change?
So, no, I'm okay with
We'll die
that.
holding 'em.
If you all feel like you can get a quorum, and then Deborah, if you wouldn't mind leading that meeting.
I will say that is the week of budget hearings.
Okay.
So it is kind of tight around here. We could have it upstairs and someone could take the minutes if you choose to do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy.
Okay. All right. Is there anything further under new business? If not, I have a few chairman matters I wanted to share with everyone. Would you mind if we go take that picture now? Can
let's
we
go
do
do
that
that.
so we're still noticed?
We'll just recess until you get back.
Oh, okay. Then we'll just take a brief recess for the photo outside in front of City Hall.
house that just came for sale over on the...
Okay. We'll resume. Jeffrey, was there anything you wanted to share?
Oh, well, I didn't know if it was a historic house or not, but it's, French and companies had just listed a home over in Old Riamar, and, their heading says, Historic Old Riamar Landmark Home, just listed. And the address is, let's see, where did I find that? How did I get to that point? Here we go. That's 989 Bay Oak Lane, Vero Beach, $3.4 million. So you might want to check it out. It's a Spanish style.
I turned it.
What's that divided by 5?
Yeah, I think we'll stick with the Gifford house.
Hey, you see the picture of the front of it?
Yes, I did.
It's interesting to me how much fill, or it was up on a dune or something, because the house is actually elevated. And you can see in that front picture that it's got some elevation to it.
What's interesting too, though, is if it's not registered, that they're calling it a historic landmark and using that as a selling.
They bandy that around a lot.
So,
Again, we'll give the information to the realtor
It's
so
a
they.
beautiful home, if you look at the pictures. I mean, the interiors have been redone nicely, it looks like, and if someone's really kept it up very nicely.
I'm trying to
Thank
place
you.
it.
All right, is there any further business under members' matters? Okay, seeing none, I have a few under Chairman's Matters. All of you know I am working with Florida Atlantic University, and they are now a partner with the OVASC for the old Vero Ice Age sites. They are going to be submitting a special category grant to the state of Florida Bureau of Historic Preservation for, I think that deadline I mentioned earlier will be early July, and they are looking for support letters. I did include an article for you of the results of their recent dig, which ended at the beginning of May. It was very exciting. They found some bison bones at the very end, and they think next year's excavation will be that much more exciting when they get into...
Oh, yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Yes. So their letter, this will be for excavation starting in 2018. So if it's okay with you, they will provide a template that's pretty standard. If it's okay for you, I will move forward with that letter and give that to them. Okay.
The city has already sent a letter.
Okay, good. And I figured as such. So that's a good opportunity to show that the Historic Preservation Commission is supportive. Okay. Just briefly, I want to mention that the National Alliance for Historic Preservation, I sent you their newsletter, their biennial conference is July 27th through the 31st, in case you end up deciding to go. I will be there. It's in Mobile, Alabama, and I'm really excited to engage with other commission members from throughout the nation, actually. They look like they have some very interesting sessions as well, and there should be a lot of folks from Florida, I would think, because of the location. Sure.
Is that a Sullivan?
Is that a what?
Sullivan?
Oh, I didn't read.
No.
So perhaps I can be talking to them about how they deal with the sunshine law, since that came up today. Because it really has been
Ask
been a
them
challenge.
if they have the same.
Yeah, and see if they say anything.
See if they roll their eyes
This
too.
article is attached to it.
But I hope you enjoy their newsletter. It is very informative. It's very helpful, I find, to commissions.
Oh, yeah, on the email.
And lastly, I did include just an article on mid-century. I thought you might enjoy this too before the marker dedication. It may provide some background on mid-century architecture. And that's actually all I have. George, again, I'm sorry you won't be there, but we will miss you. Miss your face and all the information that I know you're able to provide to people. But I hope you have a really great trip
Thank you. I'll pray it doesn't rain that
next
day.
week. And yes, thank you very much. Maybe a little drizzle, but not flood. Thank you, Gail, for everything as well today. And I will adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you.